All right. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. What's up, everybody? My name is Richard Terrell. I go by Kirby Kid. This is Design Oriented. We do a stream like this just about every day, and for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be covering Super Smash Brothers. And I've been playing this game for pretty much the last 20 years. It's my favorite game series. So you can find us on our Twitter, our YouTube, here on Twitch, and our Discord, where we talk about design all day. And because I'm such a big Smash fan, we're usually talking about something Smash related. But we're going to go ahead and jump into my crazy list here. So one thing I want to do with this series is just kind of share a lot of my thoughts that I have about Smash. So I have all these topics here. Many of which were some questions and topics were submitted by people on Twitter, so keep those coming if you have any more questions. I got them organized and it gets more complex as it goes down, but I also want to cover interesting things that I've noticed or want to say about each character in Smash 4. So I think every video I'm going to try to make them as short as possible, but we're going to cover a character and we're going to cover some topic here. And pretty much starting at the top of the list, which one do I want to do? Oh, it's really kind of Smash Ultimate is cool, but I don't want to go over the video today. I want to do Smash is too complex. So one interesting thing about Smash is that it's a fighting game, and it was born out of this concept of sort of taking what's interesting about fighting game according to Masahiro Sakurai, the creator, and kind of twisting it and making it the same kind of interesting things happen, but in a new direction. Sakurai calls his design process disassembly and reassembly. So he breaks everything down and then he reassembles it in another direction. And from the beginning, he wanted Smash to be a game where, you know, characters had double jumps, they had this dynamic knockback, and that's kind of been at the core of Smash ever since. But there's so much more to Smash, especially compared to normal fighters. Like the Street Fighter style games, they are super complex as well. Highly competitive scenes, they got lots of characters, they got lots of things going on, and they get it all done in one 2D side-scrolling screen with no ledges, no platforms, nothing crazy like that, and their characters can't even double jump typically. So obviously a fighting game doesn't need to have all the things that Smash does, but in the freedom that Smash gives players with its movement, there's a lot of new scenarios that come up, and each of them are kind of like their own entire strategy space when we're talking about how to play Smash well. I've broken this down before. Let me see if I can grab a video. YouTube. When we created the website onesmash.net for the Smash Dojo in particular, here's a video. This is video, you can find it online. I'll drop the description down below, but essentially it's a website that helps people organize and sort through tech that they find on Smash, and it was a collaborative group effort, and it has all these different filters for different things that happen in Smash. So just roughly identifying these areas, like one is air to air, like you see here, where two characters are in the air and they have certain options and certain attacks they have available. Air to ground is when one character's in the air and the other's on the ground. Platform being the ground in this case, it doesn't really matter. And you have ground to ground, which both characters can dash back and forth or shield or do those kind of options. And you have, you know, shielding situation, that's just an extra flag in the database. But playing around platforms is definitely has its own entire sort of strategy space. And edge guarding, which includes going off the edge to hit people, that's its entire, like, you can write books on how complex each of these different situations are. So when we're talking about Smash, we're not just talking about going left and right and kind of knocking people off the stage and being done with it. We're really talking about, at each of those different scenarios, there are so many different dynamics at play, so many pros and cons, that to master all of them is very difficult. And a lot of players really just specialize in a few. and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about what's happened in the metagame over the years and how players learn. But essentially, the driving point here is just Smash is too complex, right? So that's kind of a funny concept when you think about it. What does it mean for a game to be too complex? And as far as what I can tell, and what I'll try to prove later in these video series, is that Smash Brothers is so complex that there's so many aspects to characters. Like, whole characters are going to be ignored in the meta. But not everything about Smash is about the meta. You know, it's got a full single player game. It's a great game for parties. 8-player Smash is a ton of fun. There's a ton of different ways you can play. So not everything is about the competitive meta, but still, there are characters that are less represented. There are moves on those characters that are hardly used. There are strategies with these characters that seem to be pretty like unique and effective that people just can't wrap their minds around and bring into their gameplay for one reason or another. Now, the reason why learning all these things about Smash and incorporating them is a whole different topic. But essentially, you can make a game so complex that even when people spend hours and hours and hours playing it, and years and years, that they'll never fully plumb the depths. Especially for a game like Smash for Wii U, where the character balance is so much stronger than all the other Smashes combined, really. So you have a ton more characters to worry about. You got a lot of stages, even though the competitive scene banned a lot of them, but that's just a lot of complexity. And one of the interesting things that you'll find with even hardcore players is that they love the complexity to an extent, right? And everybody knows that Ganondorf. What's up, guys? Everybody knows that humans, players, us, we have these natural limitations when we're learning. We can't do everything. We can't learn as fast as we want. We can't adapt as smoothly as we would like. So we're constantly fighting against our natural limitations when trying to improve and compete at these games. With that said, even given a span of 5 years, there is a limit to how much we can learn naturally or intuitively, or just by playing matches or even studying on our own. So everybody feels this limit, and it's certainly possible to make a game that's so complex that even with many years, we're never going to get down to the bottom of some basic aspects. So I kind of want to show off a little bit of what I mean by that. It's as complicated as no one's going to do this super nuanced strategy that I found with Pac-Man, right? Unless I do it, and I can't do it because I'm not very good at Smash 4. But or it's not even really an issue of complexity versus depth. It's just more of an issue of how much can humans actually explore in a game this vast, right? With the design space and the possibility space so big, how much can you explore? How many interesting things exist outside of what we'll reasonably get to see? And is it worth designing a game so rich, like so complex like this, that no one will be able to get to see parts? That's certainly one way to think about it. There's a whole different way to think about it, where it's okay, everybody gets to see a little bit, right? Like there's a million stars in the galaxy, but anytime you look up, an individual person can see a cluster of them, and if you add up everybody's experiences together, we've seen all the stars, right? Like maybe Smash is like, hey, somebody in some matchup in some household somewhere on the planet is doing this crazy thing with Pac-Man, and as long as one player does it, it's good, right? And all smashed together, we're exploring the full game. That's certainly another way to think about it. It's really hard to prove either, but from my personal experience and all the research that I've done and all the data I've collected, it's probably the former instead of the latter. Smash is probably too complex, and there's so many different ways to even address this topic. So I'm going to jump into the game and maybe noodle around a bit to show you what I mean. Where is my game? Here it is. Cool. So, I mean, let's take an easy topic. I'll talk about parrying later, right? Like, oops, you can't see this. Further down the list, I want to talk about parries in Smash. From Melee to Brawl to Smash Wii U and then Smash Ultimate. But just as an example, parrying, the perfect shield concept has started off as a, what do they call it? Perfect shield, what's the old name for it? I just forgot it. Perfect shield? Power shield, yeah. So the power shield of Melee was kind of like a parry system. It kind of works a little bit, but You'll notice that it was much better for projectiles than it was for physical attacks, melee attacks. And there's a lot of aspects of these common mechanics and things that you could tell Sakurai had interesting ideas for, but didn't want to fully commit to the idea of making them strong for fear of balance. And certainly for a game like Super Smash Bros. Melee and Brawl, knowing that you can't patch it, man, I don't even know what kind of stress that would give me. Trying to get a game's balance, quote unquote, right out the box seems impossible. No one's been able to do it really. So I'm glad that Smash now has updates and patches and things like that. But let's look at an example. Let's just go Pac-Man and go over here. And let's just put him at Rob. Yeah, one thing I hate that I think Smash Ultimate fixes grabbing a character pin that's underneath this stupid ready to fight sign. Like, get that out of my face. I'm trying to play a game. I'm trying to adjust my characters here, but that's fine. And we are going to go to this beautiful stage, Battlefield. So, I mean, if you think about it, power shielding has been along in Melee. Good for projectiles. It actually did have an effect when you power shield physical attacks, but I think the net gain for the person who did it was so small that people probably don't even know how much of an advantage it gives you. It may be just a few frames. I don't even know the technical details of it because it was just so worthless. At first I thought it helped prevent your shield from being pushed back as much, but I don't know. The shields in Melee are so much more complicated with light shielding anyway. Doesn't matter. So then in Brawl, in one of the, you know, what's, well, what is this control scheme? Oh, okay. In Brawl, in one of the updates of the day, Masahiro Sakurai explained the new Perfect Shield system. And he was like, yeah, you can parry it, and when you time it just right, you can respond with an attack immediately. He even announced it like that for the whole world to understand, something like that. And nobody did it, right? Brawl had its own problems with Meta Knight. I'm going to try to get the frame rate a little smoother in the future, but Brawl had its own problems with Meta Knight and other things, and a lot of players adjusting to the new systems and all these other issues that popped up. But essentially, at no point in Brawl's life did I ever see like a perfect shield setup where they would parry the attack and follow up with anything decent. Never, right? So it's just a classic example of, you can put interesting things in the game, you can put interesting counters in a game, you can put interesting effective moves, and then there's a good chance that nobody will do them depending on how easy it is to do, how obvious it is when you get it, and how effective the results are. So when we're talking about Smash and we're talking about its design, sometimes we talk about it in a theoretical way, like, oh, like all these aspects of the game, this character balance, these stages, like all this should fit together and play nice. But when you actually look at the practical application and what players actually think, regardless if it's true or not, there's a whole another side to things. So one of my favorite characters in Smash 4 is Pac-Man, and this guy has got a lot going on, right? But one of I can perfect pivot so well on the Wii U gamepad. My other controllers are so broken. It's so ridiculous. I've been playing with broken controllers for so long because I'm just lazy. But this move right here, bonus fruit, it's got like 7 different variations, and it goes from, what is it, cherry to strawberry to melon. What is this stupid? Strawberry to orange to melon to apple, or to apple to melon to Galaxian to Bell to Key, right? All those different things, and each one of these are a different attack, right? And what's cool about Smash is, like most fighters, you got your moves, you got your jabs, you got your weaker moves, which we call tilts, you got your stronger moves, which you call smashes. You got 5 different aerial moves, so you can attack and move in different directions and flow and move forward while attacking backwards, or move backwards while attacking forward. You've got all these options, right? All this variation. Smash does such a good job of just creating the play field, much like Mario did in Super Mario Brothers. You got a lot of moves that you can use, and then you're just supposed to play around in space. So Smash is so good about letting you play around in all these different spaces. What's crazy is, yeah, it's pretty easy to imagine your character moving around in all these places and all these ways, but there's all these different ways that your attacks interact with the space as well. Like, I love grabbing my own cherry, and each of these bonus fruit attacks have different properties. When you throw it, they do different damage. They have different speeds when you throw it, and they have different tumble animations like this when you drop it. They bounce at different rates, right? They disappear if you leave them down too long. And neutral dropping an item in Smash is like a frame 1 attack, so I can like neutral drop in Footstool afterwards, or drop my Hydrant after it to get just a little bit of damage, and then follow that up with an attack. So like just by introducing a simple thing into the game space, you're able to essentially do what you want and make it happen, which is something that I always felt was pretty remarkable about Smash, especially when Melee came around, where he added items into the game, and he added it to where you could pick up an item just by, oops, hitting the, is that the wrong button? Oh, my bad grab is gonna be gone. Okay, yeah. So he added where you can pick up items just by tapping the shield button, and it doesn't actually commit your character to an air dodge if you're close enough to an item. The same way that you can grab an item just by hitting the A button, it doesn't commit you to a jab. The same way that you can sort of neutral drop the item and attack immediately, and those are two separate actions. Like there's a lot of things that Sakurai did and put a lot of detail into this game to where you have a lot of precise and direct control over many actions in the game, and whether or not you know, toss the item from standing, or whether or not you throw toss, and you get different animations, right? And it commits your character in different ways, and sometimes the throw is stronger and sometimes it's weaker. And your ability to move your character to different degrees, right? Like this, or even in the air, you have a different ability to analog control. All these things compound on each other, which is the crazy part about Smash. All these things work together, and a lot of times the game looks as simple as move close to your opponent and hit them, but it's a lot more complicated because all these different actions have all these lingering and pretty intuitive effects, but hard to put together. And I think that's why people called Smash Brothers a sandbox fighter back in the Melee days. That's not really a good term. It's just a fighting game. But the fact that you had so much more freedom with movement and all the ways that these attacks interact, right? Like in Street Fighter, you have fireballs, and fireballs pretty much cancel on any other type of fireball, and 1 hit equals 1 hit, 2 hits equals 2, so if they throw a 1-hit fireball into your 2, yours will keep going. Pretty simple interactions like that, but Smash is so much more complicated, and attacks have stamina, and stamina can be whittled down. If you ever see in Smash Melee, Sheik fully charged needles and throw them into Samus's fully charged shot, the full charge of one equals the full charge of the other, and the needles whittle down the stamina of the charge shot hit by hit into the last one, in which they both cancel. Like, stuff like that is so crazy. Like, every aspect of the game has these rules that are much more complicated than we're used to seeing in other fighting games, much more complicated than we're used to seeing in all games, really. And I think that's the crazy part. Smash has this reputation of being an intuitive, simple fighter, but that's mainly just because of the controls, right? Instead of doing, when you hit left, your character turns left. When you hit right, your character turns right. Intuitive. We've been doing that since Mario Brothers. But just because the specials are up, down, left, right, everyone thinks Smash is so approachable and pick-upable, but it really isn't. I really don't think it is. I just think, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Like, recovering is difficult. Dealing with cumulative damage is certainly more complex than dealing with just health that goes down like in Street Fighter. Dealing with all these multiple jumps and moving and attacking simultaneously and independently, that's crazy. So this game, even the basics are complex. In every move in the game, I'll show you some stats here. And we'll go with Pac-Man. Why not? Alright, this is Kurogane Hammer. the best frame data repository on the internet for Smash 4. But every attack in the game has all these defined properties, and these are just a few of them that we think are important. How quickly you recover after using a move, how long the active hitbox is out, so when you can actually hurt people to the frame, how much damage it does, what angle it sends people, what's your knockback, or your knockback base, or knockback, what is it, growth, right here, and how all these numbers are used to define what these attacks do. And attacks are primarily defined by how they animate, which includes where their hitbox is and where they send you, and basically how much damage they do. But then there's a whole chart of data. There's so many more properties to each attack, even beyond this. It's kind of crazy. And there's properties like, you know, every character has weight, and every character has a different run speed, and a different walk speed, air speed, fall speed, fast fall speed, air acceleration speed, gravity, short hop air time, like a different number of jumps, and properties like being able to wall kick and wall climb and crawl and tether, and how long the jump squat is before they leave the ground, and soft landing and hard landing, and all these different things, right? And the cool part is you need all this complexity to differentiate all these characters. Like the reason that Pac-Man plays differently and feels different than the other characters is that he's floatier, and his floatierness is meant to capture the quality of being sort of in a top-down video game like his original game. But since Smash Brothers has gravity, they're like, well, what can we do to Pac-Man to make him feel more like he's just moving up, down, left, right without regard to gravity? So his is one of the few aerial moves in the game that actually hover him upon using. Lucario has one where he kind of stops him in midair, but Pac-Man has this slight hover where if you do it, you can just see like this slight hitch where he hovers before doing the up air, which is really cool. And it allows him to kind of like float around a little bit more. He has this down B move that hovers him slightly when he throws it down. He has this side B move that hovers him as he uses it, and then he can point it in all these different directions. Which means that like when Pac-Man go up in the air, maybe sometimes they just decide not to go down, right? And he also has his neutral B right here where he jumps, and if he does the neutral B, he hovers more than normal. So you can do that and like cancel it and hover more, and then all of a sudden he's just like flying in the air. But but without actually making the character defy gravity, there's all these little touches across Pac-Man's design and across the design of every character that make him unique. And of course, when you pick up the controller, you just hit buttons, up, down, left, right, you throw keys, kill Robs. Like, it doesn't seem that complicated, but it really is. And all these differences matter. And we're not even talking about being competitive at this point. We're just talking about when you hit a button, why does it feel different? Why does it look different? Why does it work different than when you hit the same button on other characters, right? So then you have stuff like the stage, where you can throw items against the stage and it bounces in different ways, or one of my favorite things to do, which I probably can't do on this level, in order to grab the key, you can throw it against the stage and then angle it just perfectly to where you catch it. And this stage has too thin of a lip to do it, but it's a really fun thing to do because otherwise, if you throw this key, there's no way you can catch up to it. If you throw the cherry, it hits the ground, and you're like do-do-do, and you catch it. But this thing is not nearly as strong as the key. So like you want the key, right? It's so funny. Pac-Man's so funny. And he has obviously has a trampoline to help defy gravity. So like sometimes Pac-Man just never comes down to the ground. So yeah, Smash is really complicated. Whether you're talking about the interactions of the characters, landing on platforms, landing on the grounds, grabbing the ledge, snapping to the ledge, all these other properties like that. Whether you're talking about when you hit someone, what happens, and all these different properties. And when you're talking about all the unique moves that you have, like this water is some of the only water like that acts like this in the entire game. You can't even shield it. Oops. But this water, if you try to shield it, it looks like this. And you just slide in your shield. Not a lot of things can do that in Smash. So the extent in which each move can have unique properties, and each move can look, sound, act different, like that is Smash. The fact that Sakurai can pay such close attention to how these characters played in their real games, their original games, and translate that into a unified sort of combat space is one of my favorite parts about Smash Brothers, because I pretty much played all these games. I pretty much, let's see, Go back to the list real quick. I pretty much played like all the Mario games, everything with Peach, Bowser, Yoshi, Wario, Game & Watch. I played the Game & Watch Gallery games. Not the originals, but certainly before Smash and that came out, I was familiar with them. Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, played all of it. Zero Mission. I played Kid Icarus late. I guess I played it after starting Smash Brawl, but I played Fire Emblem I played Fire Emblem GBA. Was that before Smash GameCube came out? Probably not. But one thing or another, I played every single one of these characters in the original games. I imported the Xenoblade, the European version, and modded my Wii so I could play that. And I own Wii Fit. I still have the Wii Fit board. It's right over there. I play it from time to time on the Wii U. I played Duck Hunt when I was in preschool. And just so like that was one of my favorite parts about Smash. Taking everything that I learned and enjoyed from these games individually and how I understood the characters, and then seeing those rules and that design translate into this competitive fighter. So that's why Smash is so complex. Essentially taking sort of a genius designer like Sakurai and his ability to take other people's genius designs, like all these other great and classic games, and then put it all together. I think that's really what makes Smash stand out as a game series that people just love to talk about characters and like character moves and what characters are going to get in, and just freaking out over every single character. It's because this attention to detail is so precise, and because the games and the franchises he takes are so beloved, and he takes that whole process super seriously, right? So, you know, I don't know very many designers that have sort of that eye for detail like Sakurai does. Gameplay and game design is hard enough that each individual game, it's hard to make a great quality game, but to take those great aspects and then put them all together into one game, that's why I love Smash so much, and it's why it's my favorite series. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today. This is why Smash is complex. I'm going to go ahead and check that off, and it's going to move off the list. I'm going to go over a character next time in a little bit more detail. I showed you a little bit of Pac-Man, but I'm going to have a little bit of my notes more organized for this in the future. So yeah, if you have any questions out there about Smash, if you have any topics you want me to cover, you see these topics here. You know, I went over them already in the top of this video, so if there's anything that isn't covered there, just let me know. I'm going to do these videos one a day and just hopefully try to get through all of them in about three plus weeks. So until next time, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm Richard Terrell, Kirby Kid. Later.